Good afternoon. For Telesur, I'm Sarah Begum in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin today in Mexico, where the topic of Ayotzinapa continues to dominate headlines. 3 months have passed since the 43 students disappeared, and the families are now calling for new lines of investigation. Our correspondent Clayton Kahn has more.
For most Mexicans, this time of year is a period of downtime and a holiday, leaving aside problems and worries. However, for many, this year is different.
The indifference that many people had is coming to an end. I think the state was expecting that Ayotzinapa was going to just go away, like other massacres, that people would ignore it and be quiet.
A day after Christmas, marking 3 months since at least 43 of the Ayotzinapa students were forcibly disappeared in Guerrero, thousands once again took to the streets throughout the country, demanding the return alive of the still missing 42.
We are sure that they have them and that they participated in the disappearances. That's something no one wants to talk about. Experience has shown us that they participated in this crime against humanity.
Activists denounced the federal authorities' investigation on the case, viewing the September 26th attack on the radical students as being an intentional attempt to quiet dissident voices.
Behind the Mexican state, there is a Borgias that is profoundly violent, that has launched campaigns of hate and terrorism against those who have decided to struggle, those who have decided to protest.
Recent reports have emerged that suggests that federal police and potentially the military participated in the disappearance of the youth. As a result of a recent meeting with families of the disappeared, Mexico's National Commission on Human Rights has launched an investigation into the role of the military and federal police in the Ayotzinapa case. Clayton Kahn, Telesur, Mexico City.
In Bolivia, President Evo Morales has slammed Washington's so-called war on drugs, describing it as a cover for the U.S. government to further its own geopolitical interests. In an interview with Mexico's La Jornada newspaper, Morales accused the United States of using drug policy as a way to, quote, pressure and control governments in Latin America. According to the head of state, the U.S. government identified him as, quote, the Andean bin Laden, in attempts to link the former coca leaf farmer to terrorism and drug trafficking. Morales, who has been one of the fiercest critics of Washington's drug war, said that it is in fact the United States that backs and benefits most from the illicit trade. And in Ecuador, the Andean country's National Assembly has approved an official resolution in solidarity with Venezuela and in the opposition to the sanctions imposed on the nation by the United States. Meeting Monday for the final session of 2014, 66 out of 88 Assembly members voted to reject U.S. interference in Latin America. During the debate, members of the governing party Alianza País criticized the U.S. unilateral measure, as well as the conservative legislators who are backing it. And staying in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro will be making a series of economic announcements on Tuesday to, quote, rectify the nation's economic policies. The socialist leader is expected to make changes to the South American country's current exchange rate system, which has been manipulated through illegal currency exchanges by various sectors of Venezuelan society. Maduro said the announcements will be aimed at combating what has been characterized as an economic war being waged by the opposition against the Venezuelan people. In Cuba, an official from the Foreign Ministry has said that the government will not consider extraditing former Black Panther Assata Shakur. The statement comes 2 weeks after the announcement of the restoration of Cuba-U.S. diplomatic relations. Conservatives in the United States have been exerting pressure to extradite Shakur, who was granted political asylum on the island in 1984. Also in Cuba, according to a World Bank survey, the Caribbean island leads the world in education investment. The report, which looked at public expenditures in education as percentage of the gross domestic product between 2009 and 2013, found that the Caribbean island allocates the highest share of its GDP to education, with 13%. The survey also points out that Bolivia and Venezuela are the Latin American countries with the second highest investments in education. And moving to Peru, thousands took to the streets of Lima on Monday to protest a new labor law. Passed by the nation's Congress and supported by President Ollanta Humala, the new legislation cuts social security benefits to employees between the ages of 18 and 24. Protesters, who have the support of Peru's most powerful unions, charged the law as a major blow to workers' rights in the country. And we go now to the Caribbean during this holiday season, where concerned residents of a beachfront community in the north of St. Lucia have come together to protest excessive tourist development on the island. Our correspondent Alison Kentish has more.
The community of Truya boasts a beautiful beach, which for decades has been a popular recreational area for the young and old. Now residents fear that this retreat will soon be inaccessible to locals if a tourist development on Truya Beach is allowed. The residents have formed a group called the Truya Point Community Association and have sent a petition to the authorities calling for a guarantee that the beach will remain free from any tourism development.
We think the problem this community faces is a national problem. And this is a good time to be able to go in and give our petition to the DCA and the politicians and the decision makers, of which we have, 85% of the residents have signed a petition.
Another concerned resident says as a tourist destination, St. Lucia is already home to many beachfront resorts.
Well, I think it will be a disaster of proportions unknown, and it should not be allowed to take place. There should be a moratorium on all building within a certain distance of beaches in St. Lucia, because enough of the beaches have been destroyed by buildings and construction and resorts.
The Development Control Authority, which is responsible for all land development on the island, says it has received the petition with hundreds of signatures and is exploring its options.
Residents say they understand the need for tourism developments. What they are calling for is a national policy that sets clear boundaries between such developments and community access to beaches. From the Truya Beach in Gros Islet, St. Lucia, Alison Kentish for Telesur English.
And in world news, US President Barack Obama admitted on Monday that the falling price of oil on the world market forms part of a strategy designed to weaken Russia's economy. In an interview with the National Public Radio released Monday, Obama acknowledged that the sanctions against Russia, as well as falling oil prices, had been directed towards debilitating Russia in order to force the Asian country to change its policy towards Ukraine. Like many other oil producers, Russia's economy is close to recession levels due to the dramatic drop of oil prices, nearly half over the past 6 months. And also in the US, another case of police brutality against an unarmed African-American has emerged. The new case was revealed in Los Angeles, where unarmed 25-year-old Ezell Ford was killed by police during the summer. Ford suffered 3 gunshot wounds, including one to his back. An autopsy revealed one shot was fired at a very close range. His death occurred just days after Michael Brown's in Ferguson, Missouri. Brown's death, along with Eric Garner's in New York, have sparked nationwide protests and a debate on racism and police brutality. And now to Indonesia, where 40 bodies, in addition to debris from the AirAsia plane that disappeared Sunday with 162 people on board, have been found. Despite difficult weather conditions and waves of up to 3 meters high, hundreds of rescue workers continue their search for more bodies and the plane itself. The jet is believed to have sunk to the bottom of the Java Sea off the Indonesian coast of Borneo. And in the small West African nation of Gambia, armed men attacked the presidential palace in a failed coup attempt. The incident occurred while Gambian President Jammeh was out of the country. Jammeh himself became president in 1994 after a coup. The French news agency AFP reported that the coup attempt was carried out by soldiers from the Presidential Guard. No victims have been reported. And we stay in Africa to end our newscast on a hip-hop note. The 2014 Douala Hip Hop Festival in Cameroon ended yesterday after 3 days of live stage acts. The event has been taking place since 2010, promoting hip hop culture as well as urban music scene in the Central African region. Siana, Doko and Polyester were just a few of the artists that took the stage. More on these and other stories on our website telesortv.net/English. For Telesor English, I'm Sarah Begum. Have a good day.